God of War Ragnarok Narrative Director Matt Sophos defends Angrboda race swap by saying the series is an interpretation of mythology through our lens. I know what I'm about to say here is not their words, but there's an article I saw Ryan Kinnell RKL post video, and he pulled up an article that's talking about them sticking to the source material, being Norse mythology, on the Thor character design, him being fat, and they were praising that. At the same time, they were praising this for not sticking with the source material. It's complete hypocrisy, and it doesn't make any sense that there'd be a black person in this. It's in Norway. There were no black people in Norway back then. We'll get into this later, but he talks about them adding a blue person. I think it was Brock, one of the dwarves, making him blue. But there are blue people in Norse mythology. There's frost giants. That's not like a real life race, though. There wouldn't be any black people in Norway at that point. Well, that doesn't make any sense, but this is an article from Bounding into Comics by Spencer Picculi. Matt Sophos, the narrative director from the upcoming God of War Ragnarok, has defended the game's decision to race swap the mythological Norse Jotun, Angrboda. Has defended the game's decision to race swap the mythical Norse Jotun, Angrboda, by arguing that the series is, quote, our interpretation of mythology, not history. God of War Ragnarok's race swapping of Angrboda was first seen in the game's premiere trailer, releasing during the September 9th PlayStation 5 showcase, wherein Giantess Mother of Fenrir appears as a young black girl voiced by Layla de Leon Hayes, the Equalizer. Apparently, she was in the Equalizer. In response to this revelation, a number of fans questioned the studio's decision to race swap Angrboda, as seen in a thread started by cosplayer Alana Smith, and later joined by Sophos himself, after tweeting, "Guess who the fuck I'm cosplaying?" in response to Angrboda's debut. Smith was asked by another Twitter user why the Norse character was, quote, a black person, to which the cosplayer declared, "Because black people exist. Get off my Twitter." User Real Ram Kota then joined the conversation, arguing to Smith, "Not in Norse mythology, ma'am." At Real Ram Kota was then met with pushback from Sophos himself, who asked, "Do they also have blue dwarfs in Norse mythology? Was Loki the son of a Greek demigod? Please show me the Idas, where it says that all Jotun were lily white." First, this has to do with you inserting a Greek demigod into the Norse world and him messing up the timeline. If people want to criticize that, they can. But that's not a race swap of Norse mythology. And as to this, please show me an Idas or Idas where it says that all Jotun were lily white. I can tell you that there was no black people in Norse mythology. I'm pretty sure, anyway. Especially not Jotun. So, I don't see your point there. And do they also have blue dwarfs in Norse mythology? People can criticize that if they want. That's also not a real life race. Not something that's done to virtue signal. He says, turning Sophos' logic back on him, the Real Ram Kota responded, "Then I trust you'll make some of the mythological characters white in the eventual Egyptian series of God of War games. Wouldn't want any double standards, correct?" This is what they do. They race swap to black or Asian or Latino, but they'll never do it to white. Then Sophos responded, "You do know that Jotun aren't real, right?" Sophos argued in return. "They could be anyone or anything. Some are even giant serpents. There's source material. They can't be anyone or anything. Technically, I guess you could if you're doing a different interpretation, but here you're sourcing the source material, I think. You're largely following the source material in the game, So, they really can't be anyone or anything, especially it doesn't fit within the time period. It makes no sense. He continues, but I get it. You're only okay with Jorgenmander because his scales were white, right? He dismissed. Well, good luck to you. Hope you can find a game that better fits your sensibilities. What the hell is he talking about? It has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with whether you're sticking to the source material and not just making a pointless race swap. You're just calling the guy racist because he doesn't want to race swap in a game? That's ridiculous. So pushing back in Sophos' clear dodging of his point, Real Ram Costa simply argued back, neither are Egyptian gods. Neither are Aesir gods, Sophos asserted, once again avoiding the user's argument. I can only imagine how upset you'd have been if we made Thor black. Yeah, because that's a pointless race swap. Disrespecting the source material and the mythology and the character. Well, character and the figure, let's say. What point are you trying to make? This guy's so stupid. Following the weekend's worth of continued discourse, Sophos took to Twitter on September 13th to offer a soft final statement on the matter of Angrboda's race swap. Whew. The mute button got a workout this weekend. Granted, of my own doing. Yeah, softy. You probably know what this is about. If you don't, bless you. Open Sophos. So I'm just going to address things here and hope, futilely, it will be the last time I have to do so. Saddle up. Beginning his statement, Sophos explained, Angrboda in our game is a young black woman. The vast majority of players were thrilled and think she looks incredible, and boy does she. But a tiny vocal sliver of the internet was offended at this notion. I think you got that first, buddy. I don't think the vast majority thought this was amazing. She looks good, but that's besides the point. I don't think the vast majority of players are thrilled that they race swapped a figure in Norse mythology. He says, I'm going to address few of the main topics of outrage. Addressing the accusations that he had caved to the outside pressure, Sophos asserted, I can count on 2 fingers the number of notes we've gotten for story changes to 2018 plus God of War Ragnarok combined. This was not one of them. I have a hard time believing that. I'm grateful for the trust given to us to tell the best story possible without interference, he continued, so yeah, nonsense. I think he's lying, but continuing on. Turning to claims that he made it political, Sophos argued, as a writer, your job is to tell stories that are compelling and relatable. You bring pieces of yourself, stories, and your opinions shine through. Director added, so writing is always political. What? It's just usually only called that if the politics aren't agreed with. No, that's not true at all. There's politics in the world of the game, then there's real world politics that shouldn't be in video games. If you're gonna put politics in video games, make it work in the real, or make it work in the game world. Make it a part of that world, not our politics in the game. You're for the most part supposed to set your opinions aside and write a story that has nothing to do with the real world. It's supposed to be an escape from the real world. You're supposed to put that aside. If you want to put a message in there, fine, but make it work in the story. And if you're gonna put politics in there, make it work in that world. Finally, he spoke to the argument as seen above, that such change is not accurate to Norse mythology / doesn't respect the culture. Hoo boy, the big one, said Sophos. Let me start with this. God of War is our interpretation of mythology, not history, Norse or Greek. We tell a personal story with the backdrop of gods, giants, etc. through our lens. And that lens is not 100% by the Eddas, historical documents from which we take our knowledge of Norse mythology. For instance, here's a quick review of some mythological main characters from God of War 2018. Spoilers ahead from the last game. Brock, a legendary dwarven blacksmith we made blue, and talks like a foul-mouthed Texas prospector. Sindri, another legendary dwarven blacksmith we made grayish, germophobic, and knows about bacteria, tiny beasties. The second one is just details of character's personality. And we've already talked about the blue thing. That's not a real life race. At least not that we know of. Could be some aliens out there that are blue, but who knows. But that's not real world virtue signaling. It's not virtue signaling. Mimir, rooted in Norse mythology and God of War, he's Scottish. Mimir is the name he took when coming to Midgard, and we tied him to a character from English folklore, and specifically from one of Shakespeare's plays. Balder, the god of light and purity in the myths, we twisted the basics of his invulnerability to almost all things, and made him unable to feel anything as a result of it. Loki, we made him half-giant, quarter-human, quarter-Greek demigod. Need I say more? So, go back to Mimir for a second. You can add characters if you want. You just don't have to change the race of existing ones. He continues, Loki's dad. We leaned into the translation of Farbauti, the cruel striker, to tie him to Kratos, a gruff Greek demigod with quite the god's killing history. He also happens to have been voiced consecutively by two incredible black actors, but I digress. But you didn't change his appearance, though. If you changed his appearance, there would be outrage, probably. But you didn't, so... Again, that point is unnecessary. It doesn't have anything to do with this. He continues, I guess what I'm saying is this. We've consistently taken mythological characters and given them our own spin. He eventually concluded, so if the color of Angrboda's skin is where you draw the line at how respectful we've been, it's probably worth some self-examination. Thanks for listening. That's the article. But the whole point is you're virtue signaling. This isn't to make the story better, or to make the story work like some of the other stuff that you addressed. This is just to pander. And it also makes no sense whatsoever. You're completely ignoring that point. And just going to, well, we made changes before, and people can criticize that if they want. I thought those worked in your story. But this is just pointless. This is just a pander. That's all it is. If the character's good, it's good. But the whole point is that you didn't have to make her black. It's just a pointless race swap. I'm still excited for this game. And I love the first one. And I have faith that it will be a good character. And the game's gonna be good. But it's so hard to support these people when they're doing shit like this. I'm probably gonna play this game, and I'm probably gonna like it, but there's just gonna be this pointless race swap that's sticking out the whole time. It's just on the pander where almost everything else, or if not everything else, is just to make the story work, to improve the story. It's just gonna stick out like a sore thumb. I guess, what do you guys think about this? Do you not care? Do you think this is dumb? Do you think... Are you not gonna buy this? Are you excited for the game? Let me know. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, comment, share. I have another channel called The Thoughtful Outlaw Sports where I talk about basketball, baseball, football, and anything else sports related I'm interested in. So check that out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.